This is Yakuza 0. I talked about how Elea has very poor narrative flow. Well, Yakuza 0 has spectacular narrative flow, to the point where that's what people talk about when they talk about Yakuza 0. How do they do it? Well, they're very skilled. They actually use dozens of techniques, but we're going to talk about just one today, and that's side quest management. Your narrative isn't just your set-piece battles and your cutscenes. It's not just your major plot points. It's everything the player does, and that includes all the time I spend just randomly wandering through the city doing side quests. So how can you make that work? How can you make it so that the player can do any number of side quests and it won't derail your main plot? I mean, that's the joke. Everybody who talks about this sort of game is like, I'm going to go avenge my father after I finish petting these kittens. How can you make it work? Well, the first thing you have to do is you make all of your side quests leave the player in a specific frame of mind. In Yakuza 0's case, that's a light comedy skit. All of their side quests, almost all their side quests, are light comedy skits. And you end feeling happy and fulfilled because you've just laughed at something. Knowing what the player feels, you can then leverage that to make your next side quests start up really fast. If you know how the player feels, then you can make them feel something else very, very effectively because you know how to appeal to them. Moreover, your main plot points can also start assuming that exact same thing. So your main plot points start off by assuming that the player finished a side quest at some point and is feeling kind of goofy and fulfilled. That's great. That means that even if your plot points turn serious later, you have a place to start. And you'll find that most of the plot points in the early, 2/3 of this game start lighthearted, even if they get aggressive later on. That's a really good trick. The other trick is that you want all of your side quests to make the player feel more deeply about the character and their plot arc. You have to thematically tie them so that the player feels like they're more interested and they're more invested in what's going on. So rather than being distracted, the player is actually getting more enthusiastic. They're doing side quests, but still becoming more enthusiastic about the overall first story arc. How do you do that? How can you set that up? Well, let's start by talking about the way they do it in this game. This is Goro. When you meet Goro, he is stuck being a nightclub manager. He hates it. He's a thug, he's a Yakuza thug, and he wants to be a Yakuza thug, but you know what? He screwed up, and so they stuck him in a nightclub and told him to make some money. Turns out he's spectacular at it. He's incredibly good at pretending to be someone else. He's incredibly good at pretending to be goofy and unctuous and pleasant and friendly, and he hates it, but he's so good at it that he's making money hand over fist, and the Mafia won't let him stop. The Yakuza won't let him stop. So that's his plot point, his first plot point. He is stuck in this hell. He hates it. So how do the side quests link up to that? How do these light comedy skits link up to that? Let's take a look at them. I'm not going to go back and play the game again just for footage's sake, but there's this long list of things that we did. Let's take a look. From the heart. In this, he has to find a really expensive rare necklace for someone so that they can give it to their girlfriend. He can't. So they make a forgery of the necklace. And then at the last second, the guy breaks down and admits it's a forgery, and his girlfriend loves him anyway, and they run off together. That's great, and it really ties in to Goro's core plot arc of him being a total fake and having to pretend all the time. In this one, I believe this is the one where you teach someone how to do performances, and then at the very last second, you have to step in and distract the crowd so that they can run off. Again, it's all about you pretending to be someone. In this one, I never finished it, but I think it's about an 8-foot-tall guy pretending to be a grade schooler. So that one also pertains. In this one, you pretend to be someone's boyfriend, and you're so good at it that their dad proposes to you. In this one, you meet another ex-Yakuza person who's pretending to be not Yakuza for the sake of their family, and you convince them to continue to be not Yakuza for the sake of their family. You can see how all of these tie towards the character's own struggle, their own non-Yakuza-ness, their own pretending to be something that they're not. And this is probably the best arc in the game, the best side quest in the game. You pretend to be a cultist, and it's so much fun to watch. And you just go in there and you're goofing around, breaking up this cult. And again, it's pretending to be something you're not. After that, the arc changes to the next arc. We won't talk about that. But you can see how all of the side quests not only end on a light note, except for this one, they also tie into the core conceit of the character. Now, if you're thinking, come on, really tying themes in isn't going to make things flow that well. But here's the thing, even if you don't believe that themes resonate with the player, tying the themes together allows you to write your characters really, really well. In all of these, Goro is spectacular because they're writing Goro using the same thematic premise that they wrote his core arc with. And that means that they can come up with really, really exquisite body language and lines and side elements. And even though all of these are thematically prisms on Goro's core idea, it's also just the fact that that lets them write Goro better. Goro is only one of the two characters that you play. The other one is Kazuma. Kazuma is framed for murder, so his first plot arc is all about him being framed. And all of his side quests are about mistaken identities and people being framed. And that works out really, really well. After that, he's trying to take charge, but it's always going wrong, and so it's all about how things go wrong when you take charge. So that sort of resonance works throughout the game. Every single one of their character arcs is reflected in the side quests that are available during that character arc. And whether you believe in themes or not, that is an extremely powerful tool to help you create extraordinarily good side quests. In addition, all of the side quests end on that cheerful note so that you're ready to start the next side quest either right away or later whenever you happen to want to, because you know how the player will feel. These are the kinds of side quests that you should try to make. And if you don't do side quests but are instead creating a game that's got, say, puzzles in it, these are the sorts of puzzles that you should be trying to make. And if you haven't got puzzles but you have got levels, well, then these are the kinds of levels you should be trying to make. In my opinion. Have a good one.